Hello, guys, and welcome to a new episode of Comic Book Weekly. And I won't say we have a lot to talk about when it comes to news, but I feel like we have a lot of interesting news that's going to be talked about for length. I don't know. I think we should honestly start with comics, though, because there's definitely some comics to talk about. But I believe we did news first last time because San Diego. So let's get into the comics. I'm going to have Brant lead the way on this one. Oh, if Brent can hear me, is he doing okay on our side?
All right. Sorry if I think my internet might be cutting in and out. I'm not sure.
Can you hear
me?
Can
you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. All right, cool.
Okay. All right. I paused Dropbox, so hopefully that'll help. All right. So yeah, let's talk about those comics. And I didn't have a whole lot of comics this week. I don't know about you, but
no, I had let me see how much I had. I had 8. So yeah, not a lot. Only 8 comics.
I had 12, I think. It was 12 or 13, something like that. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about that big book, quote unquote big book, Amazing Spider-Man number 900.
Ooh, a lot of thoughts on that one.
Right
there. Yeah, let's talk about it. I wish Mike was here because he's the one who's actually been a little bit more positive about it all. But this one, we got to see the big monster that was, I don't even know what he's called. He's just I think he's called like something abomination or something like that.
Super Adaptoid or Sinister Adaptoid, I think it was.
Okay. Well, he's the combination of all the Sinister Six, and then the Sinister Six says, "Oh, let's team up with Spider-Man." And that's pretty much the issue until the end, where Black Cat randomly kisses Peter, and that's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, we still don't know what happened with Paul and MJ and all that stuff.
No, we'll never find out.
No hints in this. I was honestly disappointed with this. I didn't expect a whole lot because I
wasn't expecting this though.
Right. Yeah, I was expecting something to further that storyline instead of just, hey, here's a big villain to fight, and kind of throwing all that nostalgia in there.
Which we'll talk about.
Wink, wink. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I was disappointed with that, and I was like, I wasn't excited for this because I knew the story, but at the same time, I was trying to be optimistic, like, oh, maybe they'll do something special, do something different. And big things have happened, like we talked about before, in like 700, 600, 700, 800. Big things happen. And then this was like, okay.
Well, yeah. And how do you feel about that ending? Because we're going to talk about Iron Cat, I'm sure, later, which has honestly been such a great series. It's been so good for Black Cat. And Black Cat, has always been defined by a relationship by Peter. And it was really cool that these past couple of years that we've been getting to see just, stories about her. And that has nothing to do with Peter Parker or Spider-Man. And then I feel like at this point, Marvel is not getting MJ and Peter together, not for the sake of we don't know what to do with Peter. It's that this is the only thing that helps us when sales are down is to pretend that they're getting back together and never do it. Because always the fans are going to think that they get back together. And then this was like kind of the same thing. It's just like, oh, let's do like a little, not even teasing. Let's just like troll them a little bit and just have him with Black Cat, which again, I'm not against a relationship at all, but no build up to this. Like the last series that he wrote had to do with MJ and Black Cat being friends and everyone being cool.
Yeah, no, exactly. There was no hint towards this at all. And it just came out of nowhere, and it doesn't like really feel like the story that we're reading about Felicia elsewhere. That I don't know, but she is always kind of spontaneous like that. So I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. But there had to be something that like seriously happened that we don't know about. I just don't want to wait 50 issues to find out what it is. I don't care enough to wait 50 issues.
Yeah, and that's not good storytelling. Right. It's just, it's just stringing people along, and it's just like, man, I don't think this has been the worst that Spider-Man has ever been. No. I don't think it's been the worst that's been in like the past 3 years, but it's definitely not good. It's not like, and again, nothing against the writer or artist or whatever. It's just the direction of the book I'm just not feeling.
Yeah, I mean, there are elements of it of this arc, and this story that he's telling that I've enjoyed somewhat, but it just feels so random. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, okay. This thing happened with Robbie and all that stuff. So we'll just pick up that thread for a few issues, do that, and okay, now we're gonna bring the Sinister Six in, and it's just like you got this whole background stuff going on that we're not getting any build up, like you said earlier, to the culmination of that, or to finding out what happened. None of that. It's just being ignored, and he's just moving on, and we're just supposed to accept that. And yeah, I'm not feeling the build up at all for that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it.
I did not either. We do have a couple of comments.
Yeah.
Brent, if you want to scroll all the way up, I'm hearing this beeping in the background, so I'm going to check that. But there's Parker Luck has an interesting comment, so I'm listening while you talk. But
yeah,
just give me 1 second.
Yeah, sure. Give me a second, everybody, while I scroll. There it is. Okay, I think this is it. Hey, gang, how's it going for your show? I will say all of you make interesting points on your comics that you review as a whole. That's cool. Thank you very much. Let's see. Mr. Negative says, let's go. Interesting title topic. I'm at work. We'll hopefully be able to give input with y'all. I hope you will too. It probably won't be too long before we get there. Like we said, not a whole lot of news and not a whole lot of books. So it's probably going to go pretty fast. Adam Heasley says, never read The Death of Superman. Wow. I was like that's when I was really serious into starting to get really serious into comics, is when Death of Superman came out. So I was watching all the QVC and HSN and all that stuff, selling the whole collection, the black bag and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a good story. But I think the aftermath of it was better.
We also had a question from Lester, you're still up there.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Question from Tevio says, do you believe this run's worse than Nick Spencer?
Not yet.
That's hard because because the beginning of his run was actually really good. Yeah. And then it got really bad. So I don't think it's as bad as the bad things in his run, but I do think that his started better than this run.
Yeah, it started better for sure, but it's too early to be able to compare them, I think. But I don't know, that there was a big giant middle part that was just, we were slogging, it was like, we can't wait to get past all this. So.
We also have another question from Les World of Comic. What do you think about the new Spider-Verse coming out tomorrow? I don't know. I mean, I'm interested in Dan Slott's new Spider-Man, but I don't know if I'm as interested in this Edge of Spider-Verse that has nothing to do with anything, it seems like.
Yeah. And the characters involved with it. I mean, I like Aranya, but it's Spider-Man Noir. It's characters we've seen before, and I don't know. It's just not exciting me this time around. So hopefully they'll surprise us. All right. So the next book we're talking about, on the other side of the fence, we got Detective Comics 1062, brand new creative team. What did you think about this one? I know that you were excited about the art.
I thought it was okay. I think it's kind of like any other detective story we've ever seen, where it's just like, all right, he's being a detective, and that's kind of it. I think if you love detective side of Batman, I think you'll enjoy that it's a detective story, but I don't think it did anything different than we've seen in the past, which honestly makes me not want to get the next issue, because the thing is, if we didn't have Chip Zdarsky starting on Batman, and that being such a great start, maybe like, I'll try a couple more issues because Batman's been whatever. But Batman's been, I think has really promising stuff happening. So I think I'm just going to stick with the flagship.
Yeah, honestly, this was another one I was kind of disappointed with. I think I was anticipating this one a little bit more because I'd heard, great things about, Ron V. And this might not have been the best introduction to his stuff for me personally. Like you said, it was a detective story. It's fine, but I wasn't feeling the whole, I guess, allegory with his tragedy and trauma with the play and the giant bat and all that stuff. It just, I've seen that kind of stuff before, and I was hoping for something a little bit fresher, I think. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into that number 5, unless we got any other questions.
No, I think we'd jump in.
All right. So what was your number 5, Kat?
Mine out of default, because I read 8 comics, was Detective Comics.
Okay. Mine was actually, I think it was Strange. Yeah, Strange number 4. This was a decent issue. I think the next issue is the last issue of this mini. Her
I
mother
didn't even know it was a miniseries. I thought it was
Yeah,
an ongoing.
I thought it was too, but it was like it's concluded next issue, or maybe it's just the end of the arc. But
I think it's like, oh, the Doctor Strange movie wasn't liked. I guess we're
right,
gonna end this.
yeah, it's one of those famous Marvel. Oh, it was a miniseries all along, haha.
No.
But no, this was a decent issue. Her mother came to visit and was like proud of her for gaming Doctor Strange to take his position. And she's like, "No, I really love him, Mom." And then they had to team up to fight some villain, and it was fun and goofy, kind of in a way. And this book isn't the greatest book on the stands, but it's got a certain charm, and the art is really good. And it looks like next issue they're teasing the return of Doctor Strange, so we'll see how it all wraps up. So it's kind of by default too, because like I said, I didn't have a lot of books, and I didn't love anything below my top 4, I think. So
same, yeah. And I won't even say I love them. I thought they were like good.
Yeah, exactly.
My top 4 was good, but yes, 5 was definitely hard this week to pick because I didn't want to put Spider-Man up there.
Exactly, yeah. All right, so I gotta change screen. Sorry about that. Next book, Robin number 16. So penultimate, right?
Yeah, penultimate issue. I'm trying to remember what happened in this issue. We got to see
Lord Deathman chained up. Yeah.
Oh, and then we find out that he's with his great
Mother Soul.
Yeah. And then what was interesting is just Damian's growth. I think that was cool, where we get to see him, just try to be good to people and use this island for good. And
yeah,
I hope that whoever writes Damian next remembers this series, because I tend to feel like that's what happens to Damian's, that he goes through this really awesome arc to be like a better person. And then like whoever writes him next, like, oh yeah, he's the brat.
Yeah, exactly. No, there was so much growth in these 16, 17 issues by the time it's done. I really hope that they take that ball and run with it. That scene where I forget who it was, but the Mara, I think was her name. She comes on and there was like that confrontation, and then he just hugs her, and it's like, "You're welcome here." It was just like, wow, this is next level. This is like growth that Batman doesn't even have,
Yeah.
So it was really good. A really, really solid issue. This is always one of my favorite books of the week. So, all right, and then that takes us to our number 4s then, and mine was actually Iron Cat.
Okay, a little lower for you.
Yeah, just because I like the 3 books above it a little bit better, but I really liked all 4 of these pretty much the same. So Iron Cat was fun. I liked a little bit more of the backstory between her and I can't think of the other girl's name, Tamara. Or Tamara, however you pronounce it. Learning a little bit more about the differences between them and how they analyze each other. I thought that was fun, and it's always fun seeing Felicia and Tony Stark interact and doing that whole thing. I did not like that they went back to the AI stuff, which is something that kind of made me drop Iron Man at the time. So I didn't love that part of it, but all the stuff with Felicia and Tamara, is solid as always.
Yeah, no, I like this issue. I like it. Again, it goes back to first I want to answer Adam. So Mike is not here this week, but he should be back next week. It's his I believe this is the last week of his tennis camp. So he's catching up with that, and then he'll be back next week. Anyways, go back to Iron Cat. I really like their relationship, because I feel, a big problem we have with, let's say, John and Jay from DC is like they don't really know how to develop the characters. And this, I think, has done a really good job with 2 issues compared to their like 15 issues to develop them and make their relationship interesting and actually like understand why they like each other. Like this issue very much told you, oh, I get like why they're attracted to each other, which I really enjoyed. So
yeah, Jed MacKay is quickly becoming one of my favorite writers right now. It just everything MacKay writes, I'm just like eating up. So, and this is just another example of that. So, all right, I guess we're gonna move right into our Oh no, that was my number 4. So you're number 4. Sorry, I lost track.
Mine is Radiant Black issue 16.
Yeah.
I thought it was a solid issue. I think that the conversations that they had was really interesting about like Radiant Black in general. They're not talking about this elephant in the room. The other stuff I think is good, but I like the emotional beats more, and I wish that was more of this issue. I feel like they just touched upon it.
Okay, that's fair. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I love that they kind of flipped the script on us again, where now Marshall and Nathan have switched places once more, and it's like, where are they going to go from here? Like, who is going to be the ultimate, hero? Are they both going to end up that way? Who knows what's going to happen? But I also love that Marshall is just not. He does good, but he's not really a good guy. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, and you got Nathan who's constantly a little bit jealous, but now he's back in that role, so presumably. And then you have all the heroes, the villains gathering together. I thought that was a really good confrontation, because I wasn't sure what Marshall was going to decide. Like, he's the kind of guy, he could have gone either way with the offer that they gave him. So I thought that was clever to play it like that. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun issue. All right. And I think that was our next big book.
It was. There wasn't a lot of books this week.
Right.
We started with this.
Yeah. So we'll go right into our number 3s, which mine was Robin. So
mine was too. So there you go.
Oh, cool.
Robin.
Awesome. All right. Moving right along. Rogue Sun, number 6, is our next big book.
I really like this issue. I've been loving Rogue Sun, and what I really like about this book in general is that you just don't know who to trust. And this I thought this was better than the last issue, where you really get that to a head, where it's just like, okay, maybe the mom's not the best person, maybe the dad's not the best person. And in the end, he's really left alone, and his dad is now, he abandons his dad, I guess. And what I really liked was the stepmom, I guess we could call her, being the nurturer, and you're like, oh, can you trust her? Can you not trust her? And then him being like more part of that family. It's just every issue, just like Radiant Black, kind of flips the script, and I love the character work.
Yeah, and something the mom said too about how the dad got all his money, and I think he was completely oblivious. I think his family has been raiding all the people that he's taken down, and without his knowledge, and that's where all their money came from. Yeah, so I think bringing him into their household is kind of, keep your enemies closer kind of thing. So it's going to be interesting going forward. But yeah, just the conflict and trying to figure out, you got to remember, like, he's a teenager, so he's dealing with this, conflict of his dead dad, and he's not what he thought he was, and his mom totally not what he thought she was, and having to choose, and then regretting sending his dad away and all that. There's so many layers to this issue, and this one really won me over, because, as you know, I've been kind of like, yeah, I'm just not quite there with it, but I think this issue really pushed it over the edge for me. So yeah, I really enjoyed it as well.
We do have some questions. There's some questions of news pieces that we will touch upon after, so I'm not going to touch those. But Mike Manhattan asks, have you seen Paper Girls yet? I saw the pilot. I actually got screeners for it. So I interviewed the cast for San Diego, and I watched some of it. I watched episode 1 and 2, and I did not like the pilot. I was like, all right, I've read this comic. So I was like, I know what's happening. But then once you actually got to episode 2, I thought it got better. But also, I feel like it follows a little bit too many of the same beats of the comic, and not as good, in my opinion. But it's okay. I haven't finished it, obviously, but I'm guessing you have seen it, and you have a completely different opinion.
I've watched the first episode. That's all I've watched so far, and not entirely. No, it's been a long time since I read the first of it, and I have like the whole collection over there, but I haven't opened it yet. So I intend to go back and read the whole thing in one shot and see, what I think of it now. But I couldn't remember exactly the order of things. And it feels, maybe I'm wrong. It felt like they changed up the order by introducing us to adult Aaron first.
Yeah, it was quick. No, Aaron was always first, but it happened like in issue 7. It was not in issue 1. Because the thing is, they couldn't do the Apple product thing. And the Apple product thing was their big cliffhanger of issue 1. So they're like, I guess we have to do like the next cliffhanger first.
Yeah, it's like even that device had like something on it so you couldn't see what's underneath. I was wondering how they were going to handle the Apple thing. And I think they may have changed up how they ended up in the spaceship a little bit too, or they rushed that whole scene. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, they did. Just like Lock and Key did on Netflix. So yeah, the pacing was a little bit off, but I actually thought that that they casted it well. I felt the characters. Yeah, I felt the characters and all the casting, and it's still, it excited me. It's like, even though I've seen this story, it's been a long time since I read it, so it's a little fresher. I don't remember everything, and Lisa's never. She read like early issues, but she fell off of it, so it's all kind of new for her. So watching it with her is kind of exciting too. So because she doesn't know where it's going, she just knows certain parts that she remembers as we're watching. Oh yeah, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's not a rip off.
It actually was written before Stranger Things, so I think that's what's so funny about that.
Yeah, it's like, we looked it up. It was like they might have been filming the first season of Stranger Things when Paper Girls came out, but that means Paper Girls was written prior to that. So around the same time, neither one's a ripoff.
And they're all about very different things. Like Stranger Things, and we'll talk about nostalgia, but Stranger Things, like nostalgia, let's use it. We love it. And Paper Girls is literally saying nostalgia's toxic. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about how the 80s was not like a perfect time, which I think is very interesting.
Plus, they veer off in different directions, where Stranger Things goes into fantasy horror, and Paper Girls obviously goes into sci-fi. So,
Tavi asks, who is the good guys in Paper Girls? Paper Girls.
The Paper Girls, yeah.
Yeah, the Paper Girls are the protagonists there. I think we got another question. This was from Parker Luck. Do you think writers are not focused on why kids love comics because of action over character interactions with each other? For me, I definitely divided down the middle on that very subject. I don't think comics are for kids anymore. I think I was at a panel for San Diego. I was covering it for work, and they were talking about how kids comics have changed. It used to be that we would have these single issues out, like kind of the Lumberjanes time, where like, oh, let's make comics for kids. And now they're tackling kids comics or kid content through webtoon and graphic novels, because that's more attainable for them. They don't go to the comic book store, but they do go to the library. They do go on webtoon. So I just think kids are reading comics in different places now, which is why like the floppy comics are not for kids anymore. I'm not saying comics aren't for kids. They're just different ways to reading it.
Yeah. Even when I was a kid, I didn't have a whole lot of floppies. It was like digest or those packs that you get at the gas station or whatever, convenience stores. That's my era. But yeah, I agree with that, and it's a lot easier to buy like a graphic novel for the value than buy a $4 or $5 comic for your kid that he or she's gonna spend 5 minutes reading. So
yeah,
like, it just makes more sense. Yeah,
I would feel like with a kid reading a floppy, it's not probably because like their parents read comics that way, or they have someone close to them that read, like maybe their best friend loves comics or whatever. Like I can't think of any other way they could know there's a comic book store and know they can get single issues and make that affordable. Like that's it's hard, and that's okay. Yeah. Like it's okay that the direct market has changed.
I didn't know comic stores existed until I was like 13, and I had a friend that was a comic nerd, so that's the only reason I found them out. Before that, I thought you just bought them in grocery stores. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. We have another question from the Beach Guy. So I'm looking at Nightmare on Elm Street comic issue 1 from the 80s. Anything about horror comics or suggestions? Feel like everyone's just a hobby for flipping, just like sports cards. I love horror comics. I think in recent years, my favorite, I still say Red Mother. I think Red Mother is the best horror comic that's come out in the past 5 years. It's from Boom Studios. And I remember the ending was a little shaky, but the beginning, middle, and just the concept of the book is really good. I'm trying to think if there's any others where I'm like, ooh.
You really like
that's the one that comes to mind.
You really like Basket Full of Heads and stuff like that, right?
That has a good beginning, middle, and end too. If you're looking for a good first volume and second volume, Basket Full of Heads, especially if you like slashers, like if you like Elm Street.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go the other route, like Lock and Key has horror elements of it, and it's a really good series.
And all written by what's his face?
Oh yeah,
Joe
Joe
Hill.
Hill. Yeah. Also,
So there you go. Read anything with Joe Hill. I even Rain. I think Rain was solid. I don't think it was perfect, but if you're looking for more like ambiance horror, that's good. I'm still kicking myself that I haven't seen Nope yet. Because I haven't had time. And really I'm like, oh my god, we gotta go see Nope. Hopefully I'll be able to see it by next week. But I hear really good things about that.
I haven't seen Thor yet.
Oh yeah, you have to at least go see Thor. You're a bit behind.
Wait for it to come to Disney Plus.
I think that's smart. Super Pets, you could go see. I want to go see that as well.
I do too. All right, number 2's mine. We already talked about Radiant Black. So what was your number 2?
Mine was Iron Cat. We already talked about it.
All right, and Iron Cat was our next big book, so we'll move right into number 1. And it's probably no secret that both of ours is Rogue Sun.
Oh yeah, Rogue Sun was great.
So there you go. There's our top 5.
Yes, that was our top 5. The only other 2 books I had left that I had read was Variants, which I don't know, man. I guess I'm reading, and then Ant-Man.
I didn't read Ant-Man. Variants I did read, and I think it got me even less interested in it.
Yeah, I think I might drop it, which is so sad because I love Gail Simone, and I know Gail Simone can write some great books, and I love Jessica Jones. I'm like, this is everything I just don't like about Marvel Comics right now, which is like, oh, here's this alternate reality version because we could like make a spec book out of it. And I'm like, man, and then Purple Man shows up again, and I'm like, please stop. And then, we keep saying this. We love Kelly Thompson's run on Jessica Jones. It's like, I just want to see more books like that, detective stories that actually did have Purple Man, but did something different with them. And then to this day, they are still copying Kelly Thompson's Purple Man story and repeating it with the children.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. It's, I just want... It's like you can't have every Spider-Man story be about the Green Goblin. You can't have every Superman story be about Lex Luthor. You got to do something different.
I agree. And I think Jessica, again, her stories are ripe for different types of tales. And, what was great about Alias was that it was a book about how she could solve these mysteries about maybe sometimes C-list Marvel characters. Like one of the big mysteries of that original comic was like Rick Jones. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's interesting. That's different. And like, I want them to go back to that. Like, what's like, you have the underground of Marvel, which is like Kingpin and like the streets. But then Jessica's like, let's look underneath even that. Like, what's under the layer of the underground? And I don't think they've done that in a long time.
Yeah, they're a little gun shy of that, I think.
So. They are. But also, you can't be as mature with it either. They are trying to still do it with their main line. So that makes it a little difficult as well.
Very true.
Those are all the comics. So before we jump into our main topic and the reason why we're talking about it, I hear from a birdie that you do have a Kickstarter going on.
Am I the birdie?
You are the birdie.
I am.
No, Lisa is actually the birdie.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. We have... I'm going to share the screen. Hopefully it will not freeze my connection there. But we have a Steampunk Carol Festive Nutcracker retelling. So if you're a fan of Nutcracker, the Mouse King, and that hotel, we're taking it to another level with steampunk by creators Luca Figueroa and Lorenza Pigliamosh. And we are live for, I think it's 23 more days. Yeah, we just hit halfway today, 50% funded. That's gone, so we can take that off the page. But show you some of the art. There's the 3 covers. We actually have 3 covers for this, even though it's a graphic novel, because we're insane. But we've got Emily Pearson doing the middle one. I'll show a bigger image of that in a second. And the last one is by Marco DeFillo, who did our Curiouser series. This is some of the interior art. And you can check this all out at lastimberpress.com/Carol. That'll take you right to the Kickstarter page, or search for a Steampunk Carol on Kickstarter. And I'm trying to get to a certain thing. There's a good fight scene right there. There's a little bit of the steampunk element, this contraption that he's driving. So good stuff. 86 plus pages in this graphic novel. Got a healthy size preview on the page. There's a closer look at the main cover. There's Emily's. There's Marco's. So you got 3 options to choose from. You can check it all out on the page and help us bring this one to life.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. I have a Kickstarter coming out next week. I'll put the pre-launch link in the description. It is for The Dancer. It's the penultimate issue. It's about a dancer / assassin. And when she was little, she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her. Never dealt with that trauma until now. And we're ramping into the finale, which has a big twist. So very excited about it. So go check that out. That'll be live Monday. But let's get into our topics here. So I want to talk about our big topic. The reason the topic for this episode is, does the comic industry rely too much on nostalgia, is because the Death of Superman has an anniversary one-shot. And let's talk about the news piece first, and then we'll talk about the larger topic. But I don't care. I'm probably not going to pick it up.
It's like I was saying when you were off camera. This was at the height of like when I was really getting serious in the comics, when this originally came out. So I might pick it up just for nostalgia's sake, but I'm not looking for anything, but so yeah, that's really all there is. And plus, I don't know. I was going to say something else, but I changed my mind about saying it. So anyway, I will probably pick it up for nostalgia's sake, but that's the only reason. Do we need it? Probably not necessarily, but they do an anniversary for everything, so why not this? Right?
And that goes into our kind of main topic here, is that they do an anniversary for everything, and anything. And I've been feeling the burn on, and there's some great Big Two comics. I'm not gonna say, hey, Big Two sucks, because they don't. I think there's some really good comics out there. We just talked about Iron Cat. I think is a great book. She-Hulk has been a lot of fun. And then like on the DC side, you got Robin, which we talked about. But those are all, the reason those are good stories, because they feel serialized. They feel like, okay, this is the next chapter of these characters' lives. And I hate that a lot of these DC and Marvel comics have been like, remember Spider-Verse? We're doing it again. Remember Death of Superman? We're doing it again. And then they just use the name to sell these books. And it's just like, there's Paper Girls warned us, right? Paper Girls, the whole entire point of that book is like, you got to grow up. You have to stop relying on nostalgia. And I get, we want to have our comfort food. And I think a great example of nostalgia used well is something like Power Rangers. Power Rangers is a nostalgic property. It's a child's show. But then they made a comic book that elevated that child's show to tell something different. And that's when I think nostalgia is done right. But then you'll get something like the anniversary issue of the Joker, or Civil War II, or Devil's Reign, things like this, where you're like, you're just using the name to sell a book because you're like, man, sales are down, and people are going to buy it because people love nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see the same thing in Hollywood, and people complain about it for years. No new ideas. Remake this 70s movie. This movie from the 30s, whatever. Like you said, sometimes it's done really well, and sometimes it does elevate the product and it takes it into new territory. TMNT is another one. I think they went back to its edgy origins and told a very long story that was really good and brought people back into that world. But yeah, for example, I know you guys mentioned it with Extreme X-Men last week. Which I'm actually excited for that one, just because that was one of my favorite books at the time it came out. But at the same time, like, I picked up Gambit this week because I did not know that it was one of those nostalgia past, hidden, lost stories in that time frame. And I was a little bit disappointed by that. And we've seen a lot of that from Marvel lately. Just kind of doing those throwback issues with like the Spider-Man stuff and Gambit and Extreme X-Men, all this stuff that's taking place in that, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. Ben Reilly's another one. So I don't know. I want more interesting stories that take those characters and build on what was before and do something special instead of saying, "Hey, it was good then, so let's tell stories then." You know?
Yeah, I think even from a movie angle, I don't know why, this comment like made me I might remind myself about this movie, but Mike Banana said people will complain, but then they'll see it and it becomes a hit. And a movie that I think did a really good job at utilizing nostalgia and then actually making a good movie was Top Gun. I knew nothing about the original Top Gun, and then I saw the second one. Like it was very new watcher friendly, but then it was a better, it was a good content. You're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
They used this kind of property and they did something different with it, and they made a cool action movie out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's definitely ways you could do nostalgia correctly. And I understand, I was talking to Mike about this last week, like why books like Maestro exist or why books like X-Men 92 exist. Because there are people who are like, I literally just love 90s comics and I just want to live in that. But then why? And I think why not have like one or two of those? Why do we have to have 7 of them? And then also go read stuff like Spawn. I think Spawn is doing from what I hear, is doing a great job at reliving the 90s content you love, but still doing something different and telling you a new story. So there are books out there that are 90-esque without regurgitating the same story over and over again.
Yeah. It's kind of like I could compare it to G.I. Joe in a way, because like IDW did their thing. They created these new G.I. Joe comics, but then they got Larry Hama and continued that Marvel run from where it left off and just ran that, and now it's going to hit like 300 before they hand off the franchise. And so they took that and kept that nostalgia going for people that were fans of that Marvel run and just kept it going, but they still did their own thing. But it was its own thing. So if that's all you wanted, you could just go pick that up. So if they were to do that and just like create a couple of books, do an X-Men, do a Spider-Man, keep it in that realm and just do that. And then you don't have to like market it to people like us that just want the new stuff. So
exactly. Yeah, no, I very much agree with that. Let me see if there's any. I saw another couple of comments here. Let's see. I saw consensual sense slots. X, do you TikTok? I watch TikToks on the random. I don't search TikTok, but I have a lot of group chats that send TikToks.
I see TikToks when they're on Instagram.
Exactly. Like I see them in other places, but I don't usually go on TikTok. Yeah. And then the other question was, I think if we think Tom Cruise should be Mr. Miracle, I want him to do something that's like super actiony, like someone that's just like, I'm jumping out of a plane. Honestly, like Booster Gold would be interesting. I can see something like that. Like, okay, like that's a good Tom Cruise character. Again, I just want to see someone who could like climb a mountain, and Tom Cruise does.
He does do that well.
He does.
Yeah.
The Teddy asks some big questions here. How do you have Marvel and DC stop using nostalgia?
Well, that's
you
never
don't. Yeah, you don't. You read other books.
I mean, honestly, their entire business model is built on nostalgia, right? These are characters that created in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So, I mean, it's just like Kat said. You take those characters, you elevate them into something new for a newer audience, for your current audience and stuff, and not necessarily rely on past stories, as far as telling stories in that time period.
Again.
Yeah, again. Or, reusing a Devil's Reign, or not Devil's Reign, but whatever, Civil War.
The names, reusing the names. And I'm not even saying that you can't touch upon a story that was introduced in the 80s, but tell me how it affects today. Because a lot of times it'll be like, but it's in the 80s, it's this lost story. But it's like, well, maybe this 80s thing happened, and there's effects that are happening now. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about the Clone Saga, but it did exactly that when it came out. It capitalized on a story that happened years and years prior to it, and somebody picked up that thread and was like, okay, we can do something new with this. And, love it or hate it, it did that. So do that.
And that's the art of Marvel and DC. That's the art of superhero comics, is that you have all these creators making this brainchild every single time they write a run, and that's really cool. And it could only happen in comics. It's the only medium where we get to see so many people touch a character and do something different. And I think that's what we love about the Big Two, and why we haven't ever given up on the Big Two, and why we'll continue to read the Big Two, because there's something magical about that. Sometimes it's done right and sometimes it's not, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we got send slots is I won $350 last month on a slot machine on free play. They gave me free food. Damn, I went to a casino last week because I had a convention, and I was up 13, but I did end up losing 60. But then I was like, you know what? If I went to Dave and Buster's, I would have had the same, like, I would have wasted money on playing games there. So I spent enough money where I was like, I'm going to have fun doing this. And yeah, so that's usually how I gamble. It's like, just fun money. And then if I win, great.
At least when you're gambling, you get money if you win. Whereas
exactly.
You just get tickets for little toys.
Things that you forget to redeem. So I'm like, all right, I could spend money there, or I could try to win money gambling. And I was there for a Comic-Con anyway, so I was like, why not? Because me and Phil like to gamble a little bit sometimes, so it was nice. We like playing blackjack.
Lisa's family used to gamble like every year. They would like do it.
Really?
And we've done it. I've gone it like 3 or 4 times, I think, now, and so it's fun. Like, we give ourselves a finite budget, and
you have to
don't go over that. Yeah, absolutely. So we don't go over that, and it's like, okay, once that's gone, and we're done, and we had a good time. So if we win,
exactly, you count it as a good time. You count it as like a good steak dinner type thing. It's like, all right, I had a good time with this, and it was a good weekend. Don't ever spend so much money where you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
you didn't have a good time.
Don't spend your rent money.
Mike Manhattan says 60. Jesus Christ. I don't know if that's bad. Like, I've spent more at a casino than just 60. Because you have to. If you want to try to win, you got to spend a little bit more money. But you have to set it aside. It's like a little mini vacation. You know, if you were planning on going to a good steak dinner, let's say, spend that money at the casino. That's how you could consider it. 60 is probably the least I've spent at a casino. Because that's not a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
40, yeah, 60 40. Is probably the least I've spent. I've never gone like very, very high, but I would say like the most I've spent is like 200 for like a whole weekend.
Yeah, probably the same. Yeah,
because I feel like that's how much. Like, if you got to play, the thing is with the casino. This is now a casino podcast. If you are there betting, if you spend $10. You're not going to win anything. They want you have to bet a little bigger to win big or win anything. So if you're spending $10, you're probably just spending $10 and eating it up to the machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, that's our casino talk. Let's get into Venom. We'll start the Dark Web event with X-Men and Spidey crossover, which I did not even know that's what Dark Web was about. I was just like, here's this random Spider-Man arc. No, it's you know how this Judgment Day is Eternals, Avengers, and X-Men? Like, that's not enough. We're gonna do Venom, X-Men, and Spider-Man now. I think it's interesting to bring X-Men into Spider-Man. You don't get to see it very often. You have like Firestar and stuff like that, but I'm not reading X-Men or Venom, so do I want to read this?
I mean, I'm reading X-Men. I'm not reading Venom, and I don't know. I thought it was cool bringing Goblin Queen back, but at the same time, it's like you said, I'm not reading Venom, so I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this, and I don't enjoy where Spidey is at otherwise right now. So
yeah,
and I don't love turning Ben into a villain. So there's so many marks against it for me right now. I don't know. I'll probably try it though, because I do.
Yeah, no, I'll give the first issue a shot because it's Spider-Man. If it was any other event like Judgment Day, I read the first issue. I'm like, I'm good. I gave that first issue a shot.
I read the pre issue and then the first issue, and I was hoping the first issue would be better than the pre thing, and it was not. So
yeah, I'm. Are you gonna get issue 2?
I don't think so. It's like I feel like I'm supposed to read it. You know, it's one of those kind of things. But it's like, did I enjoy it at all? And I really didn't. So
Yeah, no, there was not usually like with these events, there's like one little tidbit. Like even in the Spider-Man issue 900, there's like little tidbits. You're like, okay, that could be interesting. This literally had zero things I was interested in. I'm like, I literally couldn't find anything to get my teeth into.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So was not a fan. Let's get into some media news because I feel like that's the big stuff from this week. You wanted to talk about Krysten Ritter, who played Jessica Jones, is going to be in this Orphan Black spinoff. So does this mean that she can't play Jessica Jones? Who knows?
That would suck. The only reason I really wanted to talk about it was I thought it was funny that right now we have Variants, which is a bunch of clones of Jessica Jones. Orphan Black is about a bunch of clones. Well, I guess they're not clones, but alternate versions and variants. But yeah, it's fine. I like her. I've only watched like 2 episodes of Orphan Black though, but I'll probably try this one.
Yeah, hopefully it's a new watcher friendly show. Willie asks, is there any good Spider-Man story this year? I don't think so, actually. I don't, because I'm really trying to think. The last one I really enjoyed was the MJ Black Cat one shot, and that was last year. It was last year. It was not this year.
Wow, was it that long ago?
Yeah, because we had it in our
oh yeah, you're right.
Our end of the year. That's the only reason I remembered that. I don't think I've liked the Spider-Man story this year, or loved the Spider-Man story this year.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of funny going back to this nostalgia thing. The Ben Reilly miniseries was actually decent, but other than that, yeah,
I don't even remember there being one.
What
was it called? Oh, right. Yes, you're right. You're right. It was the nostalgia one. The 90s one. I didn't get to read it, so I didn't want to read it. But how do you feel about Action Comics? Tevya, you ask us every single time, and we keep telling you we don't read it.
Not a single one of us.
Nope. None of us even has tried an issue. I think we will. I think me and Brant at least said that we were going to try it out when he returned. At least I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
When he returns, I'll do it just because I have heard good stuff. But like, it's a type of run where it's like, all right, I don't think I could just jump in.
Exactly.
You have to have a jumping on point. All right, moving on to Ben Affleck returning to Aquaman 2. And mostly I think it's just like, man, we need something to sell Aquaman 2 because nothing else is going to.
Yeah, and all the rest of our stuff is going to crap.
We will definitely talk about that. We're probably next. Next thing is up. We do have Consensual Sense says, I assume Mike likes every Spider-Man book that comes out. No, one thing I think about all three of us is that we do have our favorites, but that doesn't mean we don't give criticism. I think with this run, Mike is having some more hopes to it, but I don't think any of these issues have been in his top 5. So I don't remember. I don't think he has had it in his top 5 at all. So no, I think we're all very, look, we all have our biases and we all love Spider-Man here, but we're going to always be truthful about it.
Yeah, exactly. Spider-Man is my absolute favorite character of all time, and I'm still not enjoying this book. So.
No, yeah, for sure. Mike Manhattan says, wasn't Aquaman 2 already done? Well, with film, you finish shooting, and then post-production, sometimes they have more money to do reshoots. So that's probably what's happening here, because it's a mess, that movie, because they're like, shit, one of our main characters has to be completely written out of this movie because of things that have happened. So they're like, let's fill it up with other stuff. And they have reshoots. So I'm guessing that is what's happening now.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah.
Speaking of money, today it was announced.
Oh, I'm so upset about this.
Batgirl is not happening. And you know what's so funny? Okay, so let's talk about the Batgirl timeline for a second. First, Batgirl was announced with a person we will not talk about who made Buffy. That was first Batgirl. Mm-hmm. We know what happened with him, and they're like, all right, let's change the story up. Let's make another Batgirl movie. And they're like, theaters, COVID, I don't know. Let's maybe try to have it on HBO Max. And then they're like, wow, people are going to the movies again. Let's try to have it in theaters. And they're like, nah, HBO Max. And now they're like, the movie's bad. Let's not air it at all. We spent $80 million on this movie. They're like, nah. And now let's also go back and every fucking day in the news, Ezra Miller is doing something new to cause trouble somewhere and breaking the law, but they're like, we spent too much money on the Flash. And they're like, this girl who's done nothing, like she visits people in a children's hospital. She can't have her movie, but Flash can?
Yeah. That's why Ben Affleck is in the Aquaman movie, because it's like Batman sells. Let's do Batman again.
Ben Affleck's with J-Lo. Maybe he could sell some comics.
Oh, yeah, that's sad though. I wanted a Batgirl movie, right? So
yeah,
but I get it, and it's DC. Who knows if it would have even been good? It's very rare we get a good one these days. So it's sad though. Yeah, it sucks.
It is, and who the hell knows? We'll talk about the last news piece. Who knows where DC's going? But we have a couple of comments here. So, sure. We have BDG who says Mike generally likes all the issues more than Cat and Brandt, but he definitely gives some fair criticism. Yep, we can 100% agree on that. Let's see what else we have. Do you think the current DC EU can be fixed? No.
Start over.
No. They put so much money in this thing, and they're like, no, let's take this away, Let's have no content, because that's how you sell products, is by having no content.
I think them trying to do a shared universe at this point is just, I stick to the Harley stuff and stick to the Suicide Squad, all that stuff.
Shazam, do the stuff that's successful.
Do that stuff. And if you want to try the whole Justice League thing again, I don't know, maybe jump off of Robert Pattinson's Batman and do it with brand new cast.
That's successful. Yeah. Mike Manan says, replace Ezra Miller with Tig Notaro. I would be there. Love Tig Notaro.
I don't know who that is, actually.
She's a comedian. She's like a very deadpan comedian.
Oh, okay.
I actually saw her live because I love Tig Notaro so much. Nice. She's very cool. BDG says, is the Titans TV show any good? Brandt watches it.
It's good. It's not great. Like, if you're wanting something a little bit edgier, it's definitely that. Than like the CW content. It's a lot more edgier. But I'll put it like this. The most recent season, I've had like the last 4 episodes on my watch list forever, and I just can't make myself seem to watch them now because I got tired of it. But
that's how I felt about after season 1. I was like, I'm good.
I do think season 2 was better, and I do think elements of season 3 are good. It's just, you got to be really in the mood for that kind of thing.
Again, Black Adam will save us. I don't know. I love The Rock.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that movie. I don't know about that movie too much, because it does have those similar vibes of, why is this here? So why does this exist besides that The Rock is here? Tevye asks, how do you feel about Harley Quinn season 3? Now, that's a show that every season it gets better. Season 1 was good. Season 2 was great. And season 3 is amazing. So, love the show. Looking for some DC content? Watch it. It's short. It's good. Okay, let's get into the last topic here, which is the Flash television show has ended with 13 episodes. They said, you know what, Flash? You get 13 episodes. Batwoman? No. Legends tomorrow? No. Flash, you get 13. Look, the show lasted a really long time. I don't know who the hell's still watching it. So, I mean, the bigger news is that the Arrowverse is ending. That was the last show. It's the end of an era for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's about time. It became so formulaic, at some point. I don't even, like I said before, I don't even know where I left off at. I couldn't tell you what was going on.
Boring after a while.
The whole Thinker season, was that his name?
That's where I was like, I'm done.
Right. Yeah. So I got through that, and it's like, oh, I need a break, and we just never went back to it. I think somewhere around there.
I watched the crossover, the Armageddon crossover, because I had to watch it for Legends. So it was so hard to get through.
Yeah.
I was talking to my co-host, and I was begging him. I'm like, please, I don't want to watch this. Please. I can't. It's just like, it's such a waste of time. And then one of my co-hosts who was like, no, Kat, we have to cover it. Ray's on it. She couldn't show up for which granted, she broke her leg. So I'm like, you know, definitely a reason that she couldn't do it. But it's funny that she's like, Kat, we got to do it. And then she never watched it because of the timing. But yeah, I was not a fan, and I'm okay with it not existing. But yeah, that's all our news. So we are going to go to our most anticipated. And there's actually a lot of books I'm looking forward to this week. It was hard to put a top 3 together.
It was not hard for me, but it's kind of funny. Our lists are absolutely identical because
they're exactly the same.
I copied and pasted yours because I was looking at all the books and I was like, yeah, these are the 3 I'm most excited about. But not to say I'm not looking forward to other books. Just these were the 3 that stood out to me too.
These are the big standouts of the week for sure.
Absolutely.
So let's go in order because we both have the same one. Number 3.
Yeah, Batman 126. That's the number 3 for us. Yeah, it's good so far. So I'm excited to see where he takes it. So
I really love that first issue.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Batman's back. This is really cool. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. And again, it gave me a reason to drop Detective. So
absolutely, yeah. And then we got Dead Lucky number 1, the next
so excited.
Next in that whole line, which is I just love that whole line of books, honestly. So I'm excited.
Yeah, the only one that I didn't love was Radiant Red. But I also didn't love the first. I know Mike really liked that first origin story. I thought it was just okay. But love Rogue Sun, as we literally was our pick of the week, so that's understandable. And I went to the Radiant Black panel for San Diego, and when the writer was describing this, I was like, whoa, this sounds really cool. It's about a character dealing with PTSD, but not just like it's the actual realities of going home as a soldier. And she like based the character because I believe she's Latinx, and then her girlfriend is Asian, and she like made it a mixed race character, like inspired by like her and her girlfriend. And I was like, oh, this seems like such a passion project and a personal project. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. And it's the same writer who did the Radiant Pink stuff. She co-wrote with another person who did the social media stuff. So I was like, all right, yeah, totally sold.
Sweet. Yeah. And she's also, is she the new Power Rangers?
Yeah, new Power Rangers writer too. She was like, she worked in Power Rangers as more of a marketing person and like more of like, oh, this is like where I should go. This is what Hasbro wants. And then I think they all became really good friends. And now she writes Power Rangers the comic. And now she's writing really this because everyone with Radiant Black has written stuff for Power Rangers.
Yeah.
So, which is cool. I think the person who, I don't think she's doing, but she's just a social media person, I think. And I wanted to say, like, the person who wrote the Pink series might have been also related to Power Rangers. I think she actually might have been a Power Ranger, if I remember correctly. Like, they're all were related to Power Rangers. Yeah. So I think that's really, really cool. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm sold on this. I'm sold on the whole. This is a book where it has nothing to do with nostalgia. It's doing something new with superheroes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually liked Radiant Red, which is over now, by the way. This week's issue was the last issue.
All the Radiant books came out this week. It was Rogue Sun, Red, and Radiant.
Yeah, it ended well though. I thought she sacrificed herself, to turned herself in. Honestly,
wow! Didn't see that coming.
Right, I didn't either. So it was she had a heroic turn, so it was cool. But yeah, so looking forward to all that. And our number 1 then is the new champion of Shazam. Number 1, Mary Marvel gets the spotlight.
So excited for this because this has been delayed for like 6 months. Yeah. Also, I love Mary, but then I like the idea of her like this character who has to do with being a child growing into an adult, going to college, which is this very in-between time of becoming an adult and being a child. So I think it's just a cool concept. Art looks really good. I've been so stoked for this book.
Yeah, and it's been far too long since she's had the spotlight too. I love Mary Marvel. I love what they've done with her in the past. So I'm excited for this one as well. Hopefully it lives up to the hype.
I hope so too. Yeah. I heard it was a good issue from like I did like a top 10 most anticipated of the month, and then like someone messaged saying, "Oh, I read this today. It was really, really good." So
cool.
Yeah, we'll see. It was definitely gonna be the first on my pile for next to tomorrow, I guess. But yeah, that's our show. I think there was a lot. This is an interesting show because there's a lot of like a lot of big topics, but maybe not a lot of like a lot of quantity.
Right.
But there was a lot of quality topics to talk about this week.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully, yeah, we'll have all three of us back next week. Finally, I'm sorry I was not there last week. I was like, we launched a Kickstarter last Tuesday, and I was like up for 20 hours, and I didn't go to bed till like 2 or 3 hours for the show, and it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna sleep.
No, needed that sleep, and you're powered for this week. And then again, hopefully all three of us will be back next week, and we'll because summer camp is over for Mike, we'll be more consistent with all three of us being on. But what else do you got going on, Brant? Do you want to plug this? I mean, you can plug the Kickstarter again.
Yeah, definitely check out the Kickstarter, lastnumberpress.com/Carol. We'll take you right there. And like I said, we got just over 3 weeks to go, so plenty of time. And Lisa and I will be recording a new episode of our podcast probably sometime this week. So Beyond the Fire podcast, look for that. You can follow me on social media at Brant Fowler or at Last Number Press to find details about that. And I just put out a new episode of my wrestling podcast the other day. So go check that out at allpodcast.com. That's AWEpodcast.com. What about you?
For me, I do have that Kickstarter going up on Monday. So look forward to the Dancer issue 3. I don't know. There's so much going on that it's hard to keep track. But the thing I'll definitely promote is I'll be at C2E2 this weekend. So I'll be going to Chicago. See me there. My table, I believe, is I-14, so go check it out. We'll have all our books, see our beautiful faces, and also we actually got to see a viewer last week at Terrificon, which was so cool. It was so cool to talk to her. Yeah, it was so nice. So giving a shout out. It was so. Let me see if I can find her Twitter because we follow each other on Twitter.
I think I retweeted it. Yeah.
She just has like the nicest things to say, and she like really liked the show, and it was just such a pleasure to talk to her. We were just talking about like comics and stuff, and it was cool to hear her opinion on things. Here she is. It is at Esposito Kathy. So I'm gonna actually give you guys a link in the comments. Go follow her. It was cool. So yeah. Oh, actually, I want to know this too. Before we go to finish the show. What's your thoughts on Logan Paul being in WWE? Because I've heard he's amazing.
I was just typing a response to that, so yeah, I'll just talk about it. I don't love Logan Paul, but as far as a wrestler, I thought he was actually pretty good. I think he's spent the time to learn the craft and learn how to perform in the ring. And I thought he did a really good job. Both times I've seen him wrestle, and he's gotten better and better. And now he's on a multi-year contract with WWE, so he's going to keep showing up. But yeah, he's actually really good. He's one of the better celebrities I've ever seen kind of make that transition. So
yeah, I Logan Paul I think is a complicated guy because there's a part of me who really likes his redemption story. Like if you listen to his podcast now, I think like he has learned from a lot of the mistakes he's made. And that's something like I do love seeing people who could get a second chance.
Sure.
So in that regard, I'm like, oh, it was like nothing. I won't talk about his brother because I don't think he's made any redemptions, but I think he's like tried to make redemptions. So I'll give him that. I don't think he's a great person, but I do like when people can learn from their mistakes, and it's interesting to see what route he's been taking.
Yeah, and plus he seems at least passionate about it. I mean, you don't learn that, you don't spend all the time and the hours in the training and stuff if you're not. So I think JLS asked me, do I prefer Logan Paul or Bad Bunny? Bad Bunny was good too. And he always wanted to be a wrestler too, which I thought was cool. But I think Logan Paul is more athletic and learned the moves better and all that stuff. So I thought
I was looking at his moves and like, this is like, I don't know that much about wrestling, but just the way he was on the mic and just like, he knew what he was doing, which is really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. He was pretty good. He was better on the mic than some of the actual wrestlers. So. But he talks for a living. So, yeah.
That's true. And he like gets people hyped up for a living. So and I think him being a villain was very smart on WWE's point, because that makes sense. But that now it's the end of our show. When I saw that, I was like, I gotta get Brant's opinion because I was gonna ask him. But I've been seeing it, and I've been seeing like clips about it, and I find it very interesting. The whole entire thing.
For sure.
All right. Well, we are wrapping up the show, so let's get that subscriber button up. Go subscribe to the show. Click the bell if you want to be notified. Follow us on social media, and be sure to like this video because that is very important. And we'll see you guys next week, and hopefully it'll be all three of us. Good night, guys. Bye.